Hello, everybody. I'm Valerie Gilchrist, and I'm broadcasting from Augusta, Georgia, and this is Esther's Purpose. My guest today is Lisa Guice, but before we bring Lisa on, I want to remind our audience that we are WYTV7 out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and we're a nonprofit organization. Therefore, we do take donations. And so we would appreciate you all as you all watch our programs and view. We want to continue to be able to do that. So we would appreciate anytime you feel led to sow a seed, please do that. You would be surprised how much $5 can go. Whatever amount that is put on your heart to sow into this ministry would be a great service to us. We have listeners that are national and international, so we're all across the globe. And so you can imagine what the cost would be to that, but we want to make sure that we send out a message that allows people to, when they're going through their trial, to actually be encouraged to stay the course. And as you stay the course, you'll come out in victory and in purpose. So what we do here at Esther's Purpose is I want to make sure that we bring on guests that will share their lives with you and let you know that even though they've been through things, they came out of it, and they came out of it in victory and really impacting lives. And that's what we want to do here today. So before I bring Lisa on, I want to make sure that I introduce her. And again, she is Lisa Guice. And I want you all to know that Lisa is a CEO, she's a wife, she's a mother, and she's a champion of women. She says she's originally from California, but she's currently living in Arizona. She is a speaker and a coach. She adds value to people's lives by helping women realize that they no longer have to negotiate their greatness. How about that? Often women believe that the only calling they are mandated to answer is nature's calling by becoming mothers. She shows them that they no longer need to hide in the shadows and that everything they desire is possible. Her mission is to show women that following your dreams mean you're the star of all aspects of your life, and that true happiness resides in fulfilling the calling that is on your life. And so that is great, Lisa. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Esther's Purpose. I'm so glad you're making this sacrifice because, you know, at my time, I'm Eastern Standard Time. So for me, it's 1 o'clock, but for you, it's 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
Thank you for making this sacrifice to get up.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome. Now, Lisa, I did do the introduction, but before we get to that, what you're doing now, what I always want to do is start off with encouraging my guests by letting them know who Lisa is, letting them know some things about your struggles that kind of moved you where you are today, to just really help encourage them. So if you'll just start with us today, what your life looked like before you're Lisa, who you are today.
Well, before I became Lisa Guice, or I am Lisa Guice, as all my social media says, I was actually, I feel like I was every woman. I was the woman who struggled with, you know, who she was, not understanding her true purpose, and most of all, not really feeling comfortable in her own skin, and putting herself on the back burner for others. And what I realized is that as my journey continued, the more I did that, the more I lost a part of me. So literally, when I visualize my journey, I think about little pieces of myself that I left along the way. And so one of the things that I make it a point to do right now is go back and pick up those pieces that I left along the way. And that's why when I encounter a woman with desire, and when I say desire, I'm not talking about just being in business. I'm just talking about a woman who knows there's a fire in her belly and she feels like there's something else for me. I can't help but pour from my soul to help her on her journey. That's who Lisa Guice is.
All right. So now tell me what your growing up looked like, because something let you know, because even the way you just articulated that you left pieces of you along the way. I mean, you had to conceptualize that some type of way where you went back in your life and you saw how those pieces dropped. So tell us kind of a little bit about your background, how you grew up and what that home life dynamic looked like for you.
Absolutely. So my dynamic was, I had my mom, I was raised by my mother. I had a stepfather who entered my life at the age of 3 or 4, so I was fairly young. He had a child, so it was the yours, mine, and ours syndrome. So I was in the middle, and sometimes being that middle child, you're often left out. And I did encounter a lot of that. But more importantly, it wasn't just the fact that I felt left out a lot. It was more so I always had a feeling of not belonging. And I think a part of that was also because of the fact that my relationship with my biological father wasn't solidified earlier on either. So I just felt misplaced. I just literally felt misplaced. And so I was constantly going around in life trying to find my place, and often looking for that person in someone else, or waiting for validation from others. And as you know, that's a dangerous space to be in, because when you're often looking for yourself in other people, you're disappointed, you're hurt, you experience all those things, that pain, and you're, most of all, the expectation that you have that you're going to find yourself in others, it never happens.
No.
You never show up in the form of anybody else, right?
Right.
So it sent me on a life's journey, is what I've come to realize. It sent me on a life's journey to find out who I was. And that's where the missing pieces, I realized, as looking back, I was dropping pieces of me all along the way. I had everything I needed. I had it. I just didn't realize it was there. So I had to go back and get it.
Wow. I've talked to many people over my lifetime, even before I started broadcasting, because this is relatively still new to me. But I've never heard it put that way, about dropping those pieces, and even the fact that we even had them in the beginning. So that's really awesome to know that it wasn't even that we didn't have them. Maybe we just didn't know we had them. And like you said, life journey caused us to pick them up. So I want to remind our audience that this is Esther's Purpose. And I'm just so taken with what you're saying, Lisa. But I want to remind everybody that I'm Valerie Gilchrist. This is Esther's Purpose. We're broadcasting from WYTV7 out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And I'm talking to Lisa right now about her life and about dropping these pieces. So when you went back and looked at it, give me a little bit of that. Give me like one piece that when you recognized it, and how did you go back and get it?
One piece, I reflect back on a time when in my previous life, I always wanted to be a singer. So I went through the training of singing, and that was my purpose. I thought I was going to actually be a singer. And I look back on, there was one incident where I was in high school, and they had the lunch music playing, and we were all singing, and it was something about everyone was singing, and I joined in, and the looks that I received. So that taught me early on, I wasn't allowed to shine.
Wow.
People were intimidated by that. So what actually happened, I left a piece of myself there that day at that lunch table. And from that point forward, when people would ask me to perform, when they would ask me to sing, oh girl, go ahead and sing, I would be so afraid to actually take that step, in fear that someone was going to be intimidated by that. And I learned that I had to go back and get that. I had to go back and grab that piece so that I could actually walk in my purpose right now. I could no longer be afraid of what someone else was going to think, how someone else was going to be intimidated, or how my shine was going to make you need sunglasses. That wasn't my issue.
I love it. You knew your shine was so bright, they were going to need sunglasses. That's good, right there. And so, I mean, this is wonderful, but tell me, how did you pick it up there? How did you now? Because, I mean, how long were you like that, where you would not shine, that you just let your light just dim out? How long of a time was that?
That actually, I remember it like it was yesterday. That happened in the 10th grade.
Okay.
So from the 10th grade until I was 21.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. From the 10th grade until I was 21. And what actually, put me in a position to reflect on those scenarios was I had left so many pieces of myself between the grade of 10th grade and 21 years old. I had left so many pieces of myself that I broke.
Wow.
I broke. And it was an ugly break. It was, when I say I broke, I mean, walked off my job, needed to go to therapy every week. They were trying to put me on medication. I mean, it was ugly, but that's what happens. That's what happens when you're not true to yourself. That's what happens when you constantly leave pieces of yourself along the journey. You end up falling apart. I was removing those pieces and didn't realize that with every piece that was removed, I was weakening my being. And to the point where I was no longer strong enough to stand on my own. But I say I broke, but I didn't break down. I broke through.
Wow. Woo. Okay.
And I needed that. I needed that to happen. In the moment, of course, I was thinking, girl, you're going crazy. Somebody help her, right? But but I realized that was my breakthrough. That was the change. That was the shift, the mind shift. And I realized I needed to go back and grab that girl. I needed to go back and get those pieces, because without those pieces, I was no longer whole. Did you hear what I said?
Yes, I heard.
Without those pieces, I was no longer whole.
Yes.
So for everyone who has left pieces of themselves and they're wondering why they don't feel strong, why they feel weakened in different scenarios, it's because you have to go back and grab those pieces that you had from day one that you did not acknowledge, those pieces that you looked at and didn't value. Those pieces that you allowed other people to come in and take from you. You have to go back and get them if you want to stand in your power and move forward.
All right now. Oh, Lisa, that was good. I just want to again remind our viewing and listening audience that I'm Valerie Gilchrist. This is Esther's Purpose, and we're broadcasting from WYTV7 out of Charlotte, North Carolina. We're speaking with Lisa Guice today, and she's talking to us about these broken pieces that we've got to go back and get. And so, Lisa, when you're talking about that, you missed them. So help our audience know, what does that look like to actually pick it up and then reattach it to who you are to make you a whole being?
Well, to pick it up means that you're going to go back and acknowledge those situations where you left it behind. You're going to say, what was my part? What part did I play in this scenario? What permission did I give to allow someone to make me feel less than? And you're going to acknowledge that, because without the acknowledgement, you're still going to continue to repeat it, right?
Right.
So you're going to acknowledge it, and then you're going to say, what lesson was in that scenario? How should I have really handled that? I'm a huge proponent that you actually can rewrite your history.
What?
Yeah. You can rewrite your history. As long as you're standing on the platform of the lesson, you can rewrite your history. And every situation has a lesson in it. If you're not going to get the lesson, that means the pain was for nothing.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So go back and review that scenario, review that situation, get the lesson. Once you understand the lesson, that's when you pick up that piece, and then you move on to the next one until you've really reflected and picked up all the missing pieces.
Oh, that is wonderful. Now, what do you say to the person who, you know how we get into that self-defeating attitude that all of this happened to me and I didn't have anything to do with it and I was innocent? Even when we start talking about childhood things, well, I didn't have anyone to advocate for me. I didn't have a voice. I was a little kid. These things just happened to me. So how do you take that statement you just made and speak to an adult about maybe something that happened in their childhood, and they've got to pick it up from there, that they felt like I was innocent? Because when you say you got to get your part, you know what I mean? A lot of people with children don't feel like they had a part in it. Absolutely. And so how do you speak to them?
So what I would tell them is, you're absolutely correct. As a child, you are innocent, 100% innocent. But as you took that baggage along with you, into your teenage years, your adulthood, you are now complicit in continuing to harm yourself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you have to go back and ask yourself, why was it okay for me after I was initially harmed? Why was it okay for me to keep replaying that? What part did I play in the replaying of that pain? And what was the benefit that I received from replaying that pain?
Ooh, yeah. Now see, you put a big piece of the puzzle in there right then. Because, you know, all of our lives, really, if we look at it, looks like a big jigsaw puzzle, you know, from things that have happened in our lives. And I mean, we've all seen one where there's pieces missing. I don't know if you ever bought one brand new, and by the time you put it together, you ran out of pieces. There were pieces because it was a defective box that nobody paid any attention to, right? Yes. And so our lives look like that defective box, and where it had a picture on the outside, and how no matter how much you tried to put it together, it just wouldn't come out right, or the pieces didn't just quite fit. And you would pick up a piece and it would look like it would fit in there, right? And then we try to put it in there, and sometimes in our minds we'll do that. We'll really want that little perfect life that we thought we were supposed to have, and we keep trying to put that piece right there, and it doesn't go there because maybe you didn't have the support of your family that you were supposed to. So that's still a hole, right? And so when you start talking about picking up those pieces, sometimes what we do is we fill that place. You ever found somebody, the story really left that hole there, but they filled it with something else? Absolutely. Where they didn't even realize that it was an empty piece. So until they, you know, get rid of that, whatever they filled it with, it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be sex, it could be what, you know, job, just being a workaholic, it could be anything that you now filled that spot, but it really didn't quite fit. So there's still space there because it didn't fit, right? And so now you've got to unplug that to even know that there is a real hole there to identify that. Do you ever find that to be true?
Well, what I tend to find is that instead of having to identify that plug, there's a part of you that never feels right.
Okay.
You never feel right. So if you're living your life and there's just something that's just not right about it, then you already know.
Okay.
You know, people can walk around and say, I don't have a clue. I don't know what's going on. But that's really not the truth.
Okay.
You know, you can lie to everybody else, but you can't lie to yourself, is what I always say. You look at yourself in the mirror and you know when you've been putting your being in someone else's hands and hoping that they treat you the right way, versus you commanding that you're treated the right way. You know those things. You know when you're taking baggage with you from place to place, relationship to relationship, and spewing it all amongst everybody. You know that. Yeah. So it's just a matter of you saying to yourself, enough is enough. Enough is enough. And sometimes, even if I can't identify the piece, let me go get some help anyway. Okay. Let me start the work. Let me start the groundwork. And through the groundwork, the revelation will happen.
Yeah, that's good right there. That's good. Again, I'm Valerie Gilchrist. This is Esther's Purpose that you're listening to. We're broadcasting from WYTV7 out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm here with my guest, Lisa Guice, and I'm just keeping Lisa on this thing about these missing pieces because it has just captured my attention. And, you know, when you were just talking just now, what really captured my attention are people, and I'm just going to use this analogy, people who have been married multiple times, and they continue to tell you about all that was wrong with that spouse. Absolutely. Not realizing that the common denominator is you, right? Yes. So it wasn't that they were necessarily, everybody was doing something to you. What it was whatever that missing piece is, right, in you, you were using marriage, those relationships to fill that spot. And they had no ability to fill that spot. And so that's what always caused the problem, because we can put way too much pressure on our friends, family members who we date, you know, spouses, to try to fill a void that no one can fill. No one can fill it, but like what you said, find what is that empty piece? What is it for you for that, right?
Yes.
And so moving forward from that, Lisa, let's talk about what you're doing now. So take us now from what you've been talking about to how did you now start walking in who you are today?
Well, like I said, during the breakdown/breakthrough,
Yeah.
I had the revelation of how I had been leaving myself behind. So I just jumped in head first because I wanted to feel better. I wanted to have healing. So I started to really do some self-development, some I want to say self-improvement, really looking at my needs, which a lot of people do not do. It's they don't focus on their needs. It's always, let me put this to the wayside. And I just really went hard. I said, you know what? I'm worth it. And when I decided, because it is a decision, when I decided that I was worth it, I refused from that point forward to allow myself to, number one, go back. Number two, I refused to allow anyone in my inner circle who was not on board with the new process. And then number three, I decided that from this point forward, I would say yes to my healing.
Ooh, yeah.
And whatever that looked like. And I was not going to put any expectations on what that was supposed to look like. I was just going to really remain open to receive what that looked like. So I would say to the listeners and the viewers that what you need to do is you need to really have a what they call a come to Jesus moment with yourself and say, do I think I'm worthy? Do I believe that I am worthy of a better life? See, because I can wallow in the bad life and say, I hate being here, but the signs that you're really sick and tired of something is when you decide to make a change.
Right.
So you have to really decide to say, you know what? Even if you say, I'm not sure if I'm worthy, but I'm willing to do somewhat of the work to find out if I'm worthy.
Okay.
Just start there. Just start there.
And so when you talk about the work, so is that what you do? Do you help them with that when they're at that point, they're listening to this broadcast today and they're saying, okay, Lisa, all right, so I'm there. And one, I'm not quite sure how to make myself worthy in my eyes because all my life, I didn't think I was. And two, how do I get that person? Because, we hear a lot about coaches, but the average person really doesn't know what that means, or even how to find someone, or trust someone to do that for us. Yes. So if you can take just a few minutes to tell us about how do I become valuable to me, like what you said, and then give me a couple of more minutes of, okay, so how do I get that coach? How do I even receive someone who maybe even was trying to help me and I rejected them?
Absolutely. So the way that you find out if you're worthy is, again, making the decision, because before you approach a coach, you have to be willing. I have a saying with anybody that I work with, whether it be from the personal aspect or if I'm working with a business owner, I only work with the willing. If you come to me and you're not willing, I'm not in the business of convincing. Okay. So you have to make a decision that you are willing to step up and say, you know what, I'm going to try this out. I'm going to try this out because I at least deserve that, right? I at least deserve to try it because that other way hasn't been working for me.
Okay.
That's the truth. It hasn't been working. I'm not happy. So let me at least try something different. So once you've made that decision, then what I do is I sit down with you and we create what's called your personal avatar. A lot of people use this from the business perspective, but I like to pair business with personal, because if you're not, if your personal isn't in alignment, you're not going to flourish in your business. So I like you to create a personal avatar, because where you are now and where you would like to be, it's okay to say, this is where I would like to be. I don't even know how I'm going to get there, but if you can write out who you would like to be, and I'm not talking about hiding behind a mask. I'm not saying, fake it till you make it. I'm not talking about that. I'm literally saying, just like you see those wonderful traits in other people, but you can't see them in yourself. The reason why you see them in the other people is because you too possess them. You just won't acknowledge it. So I want you to just, throw caution to the wind and just write out who you would like to be. And then we write out who you are now, and we fill in the gaps between the two.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, because I mean, we all inherently, no matter how bad or we feel about ourselves or what type of low self-esteem we might have, there's got to be some value in there. I don't care if it's one thing. There has got to be one thing that you know that you light up when you do it. You know what I mean? And there might have been a lot of things that, you know, tried to throw water on your life. I remember when I did my search, when I started getting close to 30, and for some of us 30s is a big thing. It's like 30 and then there's 50, but 30 started. So when I started getting close to 30, and I was still kind of, I'm not sure. And I was watching a talk show kind of, that's talking about purpose and how you find it. And so, I was locked in. And so one of the ending things this gentleman said was, for those of you out there that don't have a clue, if you don't know, if you don't have any idea, go back and talk to somebody who was with you when you were young, who could see what you just naturally did. Mm-hmm. And so I called my mom, because I didn't know anybody else. My father was military, I was military myself, and so we traveled a lot. So the only person I can think of was, my mother would know. And so I called her, and I was all excited. Okay, Mom, I'm going to be 30 in a couple of years, and here's what I want to do. And I was watching the show, and this is what they said. And so I need to know from you. So what was I doing when I was little? And I had my paper, I was ready. And you know what the first thing she said to me was, Lisa?
What?
You were doing nothing. And you talk about I took a pause. And I don't know how long it was, but I just thank the Lord that I kept listening, because it took my breath away when she said nothing. But the next thing I heard her say was two things. All you ever did was talk a lot, and you were always trying to help people.
That's the calling.
I said, okay. And so sometimes in our lives, and I wanted to share that for people who are right now in the midst of what we're talking about today. And, no matter what people are saying to you about you, especially yourself, when you don't think you're anything, you don't think you have any value. No, yes, you do. There is something that you bring to the earth, because even though I'm not the only person who talks a lot, and I'm not the only person who's trying to help people, there is a tribe specifically assigned waiting for me to get in position.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't know that. There are millions and millions and millions of people in the earth. And so there's a group that is waiting for you, that if you don't step up, they might never, arrive where they need to, because they're waiting for you to get it, right? Yeah. So that's great, Lisa. I love that. So Lisa, tell our audience, if someone wanted to connect and said, you know what, I'm right there where Lisa's talking about, and I need a coach, how would they contact you?
Well, I am Lisa Guice, and Lisa Guice is LisaGuice on all social media. They can reach out to me there. I always say it's spelled Juice with the G. My last name, Juice with the G. They can contact me via social media, or they can email me at lgglobalvision@gmail.com, or through my website, www.lisaguice.com. Can I just add one thing though?
Yes.
I want to piggyback on what you said about going to your mother. One of the things that I have my clients do is, in my book, You're Just a Quote Away from Your Greatness, we deal with exactly that, not being able to see the greatness within yourself. And I have them to actually throw themselves a I am great party. Wow. And invite people to the party, and everyone that shows up, you tell them they have to write 3 things down before they come. They have to write 3 things about you that is great. And once they show up, you collect those things. You collect those things from them. Everything that they've written down, you collect them. You guys throw a party. It's about the celebration of you, right? Yeah. And once they're no longer at your home or wherever you choose to have your party, those pieces of paper you now have to reflect back and see what others see in you that you're not able to see in yourself.
Wow. Now, I'm so glad. Well, we are ending with that piece right there. That's really good. Because you're right. People see things in us that we never see. That is wonderful, Lisa. Thank you for sharing that. So Lisa, we thank you so much for your sacrifice and coming to be with us today and being so transparent and dropping those great nuggets, because you gave us some good stuff. Right?
Thank you.
Yes. I'm Valerie Gilchrist. This is Esther's Purpose. Please go on all social media, and just like what Lisa was saying, you can type in Esther's Purpose. You can go to my Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter. You can go to my website, www.esterspurpose.org. Please go to my Facebook page. You can like, you can share, you can follow, do all of that. You can look at Lisa, listen to her again, because as we air it, it'll also be there. Also, please go to WYTV7. Please go there, WYTV7.org. You can see all the broadcasters. There's a lot of shows there. Remember, our listening audience is across the globe. There are things there for all of us. There's also a donate button there. Please take the time to hit that donate button, and remember that you want the same encouragement that you received today. You want to be able to give that to someone else. Again, $5 goes a long way. Even if it's $5, just know that you just sold that $5 into someone else getting their breakthrough. Lisa, again, thank you so very much. I so appreciate your sacrifice today, and we'll be talking again real soon. All right, bye-bye.